Hello there, Servum17 once again. This is my Bayonetta Hard Pure Platinum run. This is Chapter 5 entitled The Lost Holy Grounds. The very first verse is a fight against grace and glory. And these fights are always pretty intense. I used to hate this angel. I used to really hate it, and when you learn to fight them, they do get better, and they are more enjoyable, but they're still pretty challenging because unlike a lot of the other ones, they parry a lot. And if you've played on Infinite Climax mode, they parry even more, because the difference between hard and Infinite Climax, aside from, the obvious one, which is they remove the witch time, is the enemies can randomly recover from stun and parry. And it means that your combos are never safe, which, when you're playing Infinite Climax, it's pretty much dodge offset and nothing else. And this becomes really abundantly clear when you go for score on that difficulty mode, because a lot of the combo scores are considerably lower, because keeping a combo is considerably harder. Which, a lot of people have asked me why I didn't do Infinite Climax. In my opinion, Infinite Climax is a lot harder than hard, but it's harder for different reasons. The game itself is set to hard, the only difference is you don't have the witch time, and the way you approach the game between hard and Infinite Climax is almost like learning a completely new game, and the Bayonetta that I enjoy is the one with witch time. I know I could set aside some time and, dedicate it to learning how to play in Infinite Climax mode, and maybe at that point, it'll be really difficult to go back, but I really like the slow motion, and I understand it's a crutch, I understand it's something that makes the game easier, but it's also something that makes the game more interesting, and I'm under no illusion doing this on hard, while incredibly challenging as it was, doing it on Infinite Climax will be worse, because a lot of the moments that I got stuck on the most were Alphheims that didn't have witch time. And speaking of Alphheims, here we have use witch time to damage your enemies. So there's a couple of things that I really dislike about the Alphheims. Specifically the ones that limit what you can do, because if you do anything out of that very precise and concise instruction, you bounce off the enemy. And a good example of this is kill them with Wicked Weaves. When you're instructed to kill things with Wicked Weaves, if you hit the enemies with a standard attack, it will stun you, it will interrupt your combo, and you will immediately be counterattacked. Often, you don't have enough time to respond to recover from the stun to evade the counterattack. And even more criminal is if you've activated Witch Time and you accidentally hit somebody without it being a Wicked Weave, it disables Witch Time. And I really don't like that they've had it function that way. I would have much preferred for the damage just not to register, instead of getting rebounded off, because then you have to do this intricate dance of getting enough distance through either dodge offset or panther offset to do the Wicked Weaves. And don't get me wrong, doing the dodge offset and the panther offset is incredibly effective, but it's also super tough on your hands, super tough on the pad, and it's one of those things where you've got to practice it to get the stamina required to keep on pressing a trigger, because the 360 triggers are deep. I love the pad for the 360, but if you've ever played a game that prioritizes triggers heavily, and I'm not talking like Dark Souls where occasionally you'll press a trigger, I'm talking like Zone of the Ender's Second Runner, where to boost, and you are boosting 100% of that game, you are bashing a trigger. It's a lot more difficult than bashing a button, and it's a lot more stress on fingers that don't get that kind of stress. Like your thumbs, hardcore gamers. They do everything, they're moving all the time, the carpal tunnel waiting to happen, and all sorts of arthritis in your later life problems just waiting to take ground. But they do everything, and you've conditioned them to be great. Your fingers, not so much. Unless you're the type of person that, feathers the trigger a lot in driving games or shooting games and does nothing but have marathon sessions of those kind of games. So, a great example of this was yesterday. I beat Father Rodin for the first time. In fact, I unlocked Father Rodin for the first time, and if you don't know who that is, there's a secret boss on this, and it's the merchant who makes the weapons for you. He's got an interesting backstory that I'm probably going to talk about in a later commentary. But you have to get 10 million halos, and you will unlock something called a platinum ticket. And the 10 million halos is accumulative over time. And once you have that amount, he will sell you this ticket. The ticket costs $1 million. For some reason, I thought it cost 10 million, so that's the reason why it's taken me, 5 years to fight this dude, or however long the game's been out. And I bought it last night, and I went into this fight super optimistic, like, all of the internet says he's ridiculously challenging, he's super hard, and you know, everybody uses the climax bracelet to beat him because he's just super stupid and ridiculous and he's got lots of life. And I didn't realise that the game defaults the difficulty to infinite climax. So my first encounter against this boss was me avoiding a barrage of attacks, and this dude attacks fast and he attacks constantly, and I wasn't getting any witch time. A quick word to the developers. When you're going to put joys in your Alphheim, please put them at the very first wave, because doing 2 full waves and then getting punched by a fucking joy that hasn't even spawned yet is the most frustrating thing on this planet, aside from 1,000,001 other really frustrating things. So my experience with fighting Rodin went from this super excited, anticipated, awesome challenging fight to, God, I wish this boss wasn't on Infinite Climax. And this is a boss who is immune to witch time, the wikis say, anyhow. And it's not fun. It wasn't fun at all. But I grit my teeth, I got over myself, and I thought, you know, I want to beat it because I want to do everything in the game, and this is something I've not done. So I started to try and learn him, and I acknowledged that I was never going to get him in some evades and then do some fun combos, because it's just not how that mode works. It's all about evading and just dodge offset and stuff. So I put on the rosary, the evil bead rosary thing, and I found out that when you evade him and you get the evil rosary explosion, it stuns him. And a lot of his combos are multi-hit combos. So I was able to stun him with that, which was great. And then I combined it with the dodge offset punch kick punch. And it allowed me to loop some big damage on him at a distance when he was coming back towards me. And there was like a 1 in 3 chance that he would dodge the move, but if I did it correctly, I could hit him twice with the Wicked Weave Sword of the Shiraba. And whenever you fight the Joys, I found a really successful strategy to kill 2 of them, if you could line them up, was to just use the lasso with the whip, and then the last one you can focus on doing some combos and having fun. The problem with Joys is they attack so fast and they have so many moves, you never really know what they're going to do, and the earlier footage of me against Joys is going to be more nervous than the later footage once I'm a little bit more comfortable with them. They're an enemy I never really learned, and you know, I had to learn them in this because knowing what they were doing when they're on the 3rd wave at the end of an Alphheim is pretty damn important, and a lot of the times it involves just mashing evade. Like that sequence then, that is one of the cheapest parts of this entire verse, because you come out of a cutscene and 2 of the, what are these motherfuckers called, harmonies? They attack you, and one of them attacks you as it spawns, as you saw, so you literally need to bash evade, because if you don't, you'll take damage, and this is a conjoined fight in a single verse, so you have to fight the Joys again if any of these dudes touch you. So hopefully, you got enough points off the Joys so that you can just torture attack these fools and get this verse over with. If you didn't, you might have to retry, and you know, you have to be quick, guys, because see how it saved as the rank was coming up? If that was a gold, I would have to restart the level because that would have broken the entire save. It's such a frustrating system, it really is. But here's the single Arder. We've got the chainsaw from the previous fight. Oh no, sorry, there's 2. They always seem to come in 2s, these fellas, 2 or 3s. And they're a really fun fight, but just bear in mind, the less armour they have, the less A they can block, and B, the faster they seem to react, so they seem to get much quicker. But back on Rodin, I kept getting really close to beating him with the strategy I was using. I was doing the punch kick punch, dodge offset, and the Tetsuzanko whenever he dodged it to try and interrupt him and knock him back. And about 5 or 6 times I got him down to his orange life bar, and I got him down to literally an inch of life, and he would do the grab or something, or he'd get me in a full combo that would take off an entire life bar and half of the other life bar. You know, I kept choking, effectively. And then I killed him, and I expected to get the climax bracelet, and it turns out you get the Rodin weapon off him, and yeah, you get the climax bracelet from picking up all the Umbran Tears. So I was super deflated after beating him. Not only because, you know, I was kind of sad that you can't fight him on hard, but also because the weapon that he gives you, I had no idea what it was. So I expected it to be the moves he was doing during the fight, and, you know, gives you a super good, like, fisticuffs weapon that does wicked weave punches. And it turns out it's every single angel arms in one. And the combos are literally swapping between the weapons in a really confusing way. So, as much as it's a novelty item, it's probably a weapon I'm really never going to use. And unfortunately you won't see it in this playthrough because I didn't do it during this. But this right now is the hardest verse of the level. You might be wondering why. Well, it's quite simple. You have to do 2 verses in a row without a checkpoint. And this verse is absolutely stupid and annoying, and it's simple really. You just lasso the harmonies into each other and you can get an easy pure plat. Then from this you double jump, push both analogues, and you disengage from the moonwalk. You fly all the way down here and you hit this Alphheim. And in here is a stay in the air for 30 seconds against a Fearless, I believe his name is. And I just couldn't do it. I couldn't for the life of me do this. And the cut you're going to see here was when everything worked perfectly, and he didn't do the anti-air move, you know, he didn't evade me all the time when I was trying to whip him, and it just worked perfectly. But I almost rage quit on this particular part. In fact, I did rage quit for the night, and then I tried it the day later and I managed to get it. But when you've ever done something really challenging to you personally, because we all know difficulty's subjective and people probably think stuff that you think's hard is really easy, but when you come to that moment where you know in the pit of your stomach that you don't think you can do something, it can be a really demoralising thing. And this was that moment for me. So what I'm doing here is I'm breaking this guy's armour, because when you break his armour you can whip him when he doesn't block you. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to break his armour, and then I'm going to double jump and I'm going to start whoring the whip to grab him to me, and then I'm going to kick off him and grab him again. And what happens here, which I think is the reason why this was so successful, is if you keep bashing the whip attack, she kind of delays her fall. So you can keep whipping even if you don't grab him, and you can just keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it, and it keeps you in the air for a decent amount of time. So you see I get quite high, and I miss, and I do it, and you see how I'm barely losing altitude because I'm spamming the whip? And all I'm thinking now is if the camera goes remotely close to this dude, he's going to anti-air me, and I have to dodge it, because if I don't, I'll take damage, and it's all over. And to say I was nervous at this point is an understatement, because I was absolutely terrified, and I knew I had it now, so you're just praying that you've got the combo, you're praying it's not one of those bullshit Alphheims that the combo's stupid high, and lo and behold, oh, that was a big breath when that landed. And the first thing I did is I waited for the game to save, I immediately dashboarded, and I backed up my save so I never have to do that dog shit ever again, because it was just horrible. So this one, in contrast, this verse is a pleasure, because it's a Fearless, but it's just a fight. It's just beat this guy up, and there you go. However, the combo points on this are a little bit high, and I'm not very good at fighting Fearlesses, so right there I managed to get the witch time off the counter, because I parried his attack. And if you're wondering about that and you don't know too much, the Moon of Malachi, or whatever it's called, Malachi, la 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 la, it gives you the biggest amount of witch time outside of the witch statues. It's amazing. However, it has to be a perfect parry. It cannot be a guard, it has to be a parry, and the parry timing is pretty strict, although you can kind of mash to just do the guard, which I don't recommend. I recommend precision for these things. But it's definitely something I'm practicing with when I'm playing the game now, because I never really did it and I'm falling in love. This is a nightmare for people who don't like Grace and Glory. This is a limited punch and kicks against a shit ton of these dudes. And the cool thing here is the whip lasso destroys Grace and Glory. And you're going to see me show you what it can do. Look at that, it took 2 of them out practically. Like, if you had more control over that whip, it would be the most overpowered move in the game. You know, who needs the killgore glitch when you have that? Because it's fucking brutal. But right now, I'm wondering if this is the final dude, and I'm also worried I'm going to get hit. So as much as I want to parry this dude, I'm playing it safe. I'm waiting on the spin, I counter it, I hit him with the charged Durga, and I believe that was a pretty quick pure platinum. There we go, verse 10. Not too bad at all. I will be wearing this outfit for the full campaign as well. I wasn't intentionally doing that, I just forgot to change it. It's a kind of cool one. So this is an Inspired. This is our first instance of Inspired, and I suck at this enemy. He is very fast. The thing that gets me with him is the parries have to be... Sorry, the witch time evades have to be spot on. If you're not spot on, you just won't land them. And I wasn't used to that level of precision. And if you play as Jean, she's the same. You have to literally do the Moth Within, which is the most precise evade you can do on the game to trigger her witch time. Bayonetta is a hell of a lot more lenient and flexible. And because of this, when you fight an Inspired, you feel like you can't get witch time on them, but you can. It's just you're so used to this incredibly wide window of evasion that you can't nail it, and you have to take risks to nail it. So I like to pull away from him, and I like to lure the breath attack when he fires the fireball. It is very fast, and a lot of people who have commented on this so far are saying, like, Jesus Christ, this game is so fast, and it is. And when it comes out on the Wii U, it's going to be 60 frames per second all the time, and that to me is incentive enough to buy a Wii U. I am really almost set on buying a Wii U, and I never thought I'd ever hear myself say that, but I'm so into Bayonetta at this moment in time. Bayonetta 2 comes out in a handful of months, and I couldn't be more excited. I could have a Wii U before I have any other next-gen console, which is just insane words to come from this mouth. This is verse 12. This is another Inspired. I'm getting a little better at them at this point, but I'm still just not very good with this particular enemy type. He's incredibly quick, and I just can't get the witch time on that tailspin. A couple of things to bear in mind: his posture changes and his attacks kind of stay the same, but they have a different wind up to them, and that's confusing. So when his tail's down and his head's up, he'll do the same things he does when his head's down and his tail's up. It's just harder to see. Like right now, when he's like that, he can actually fire the fireballs, but sometimes his head is off screen, and you can't see them coming, and when you get hit by those, they feel really cheap. So you've got to just watch his tails. If his tails move, I say tails like there's more than one of them, watch his tail, sorry. If it starts to move, it means he's doing something, so just try and evade. But here is one of those secret verses that you have to backtrack to find. This is the power of the... I can't remember the name of the whip, but it's a very good weapon. However, the input for the lasso, the amount of times you will get the wrong input because of weirdness in the registering of that certain input is kind of frustrating. However, this is a fight that you're never going to struggle on once you've kind of got used to this enemy and how shit it is. But there we go. There is verse 13, and this is probably the second trickiest fight of the level. Just because there's no checkpoint here, guys. You have to do every phase of this fight in one attempt. You also, when you fail, you have to run back to the fight, which makes it really frustrating. And you just see the transition there, how it's kind of quick. She can attack you at the single frame beginning of this instance, and if she does it, sometimes you just don't have the reflexes to evade. So you have to be aware of this, and you have to be, either pressing evade as it begins or getting really lucky. And you will never see me go for the counters intentionally, because the amount of times I have failed to tap fast enough to win them is untold. But I managed to get this quite quickly, considering it's a tough fight, and I believe it's because of how difficult the first fight of Chapter 2 was for me. Now that we've got our equipment, we can hit her with killgore, we can hit her with, better weapons, we can really deal some damage, and I love the Jean fights, but be under no illusion, folks, she's easily one of the hardest enemies in this game because she's just so good, and she fights just like you do. But that's the end of the Lost Holy Grounds. I hope you're enjoying this. It's a lot of blood, sweat and tears, but I managed to do it a lot quicker than I thought I would. I thought this would be like a month-long project, and it turned out to be less than a week. But, I was inspired, I was enjoying it, even though I wanted to cry at times, and it's just really sad that Sega's stopping me from monetizing a lot of these videos when I'm really proud of them, and it's sad. But thank you for watching, and you take care now.